Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the webinar, Building Africa's Livestock Ecosystem, Advancing Health, Nutrition and Care, organized under the banner of Future Food, Livestock and Poultry Expo, FLIP 2025, an event by TAB Group in Nairobi, Kenya at KICC on the 19th and 20th of February 2025. To put things into perspective, Africa is home to 1/3 of the global livestock population, contributing about 40% of the continent's agricultural GDP, ranging from 10% to 80% in individual countries. With population growth, rising incomes, and urbanization, the demand for animal source foods in Africa is projected to soar. By 2050, consumers in low and middle income African countries are expected to require 107 million tons more meat and 5.5 million tons more milk compared to the beginning of the century. Current per capita consumption of meat and milk at 14 kg and 30 liters annually is projected to nearly double to 26 kg and 64 liters, respectively. Hi, my name is Surender Kumar Dhaleta. I am the co-founder and editor of AgroTech Space, a media platform dedicated to culture, agriculture, technology, and science. I'm honored to moderate this vital discussion today. To explore this topic in depth, we are joined by an exceptional panel of experts. Mr. Joseph Kagoro Ruhinda, CEO, Uganda Meat Producers Cooperative Union, Mr. Abdul Qadir Muhammad, CEO, Kenya Livestock Marketing Council, Dr.Ruphline Margaret Anyango, I hope I'm pronouncing the name correct, Deputy County Veterinary Officer, Kenya Veterinary Association, and Mr. Divya Kumar Gulati, Chairman of the Compound Feed Manufacturers Association of India, CLFMA. So let's dive into this critical discussion about shaping a sustainable and thriving livestock ecosystem for Africa. To begin, let's set the stage with a discussion on the key drivers of growth in Africa's livestock industry. I'll come to you, Mr. Joseph Kagoro Ruhinda. Mr. Ruhinda, how can advancements in nutrition and health improve livestock productivity? This is a crucial area for enhancing both output and resilience in the sector. Mr. Ruhinda.
Thank you very much, and good morning, all panelists and then everyone attending this meeting. The advancements in animal health stretch from edge-cutting research in disease control, disease prevention and control, disease detection and response, where we have to have diagnostic capabilities to be able to control disease outbreaks well in time to avoid massive losses of livestock and poultry. And to me, that is one of the key drivers that we need to focus on if we need to see the productivity increase that we strive to have. One is that healthy animals are more productive. The productivity comes from the fact that good health enables individual animal sustainable production. For example, if it's beef, you'll have marked growth rate that you would not have when the animal is sick. Beyond that, at the herd level, you have issues to do with overall herd productivity when your targets are not met, for instance, with your customers in terms of the fattening, the growth rates, as well as milk yields. So in that regard, you find that is quite paramount to have good health investment, right from disease prevention, which includes vaccinations, includes a periodic treatment of chronic diseases like helminth, treatments in form of disease occurrences that we need to have. And when it comes to nutrition, nutrition is much more important because animals that are well fed have a greater immunity and can resist disease or tolerate disease and parasites, and hence lead to higher yields to the farmer. So we have to look at those aspects and see how do we leverage them in terms of overall forecasted requirements for the animal resource foods. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ruhinda. And healthy animals, as you said, are more productive and their good health, their immunity and all, and they give more productivity. So, and that on that note, I'll come to Dr. Ruphline Margaret Anyango. Dr. Anyango, what are the latest developments in veterinary healthcare for livestock in Africa? This area is critical, as our previous speaker reminded us, critical for improving livestock health and ensuring sustainable productivity. Dr. Anyango.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. And before I go to my question, I may want to first I want to agree with the previous speaker. And I would also want to add that some of the drivers of the livestock industry in Africa, of course, like you mentioned in your introductory remarks, is that there have been studies that have been developed, that have been done. And when we look at the livestock development strategy for Africa, it's a document called LIDESA. It says that in the next 30 to 50 years, the demand for animal source proteins would actually go up. Studies have also been done by Food and Agriculture Organizations for the United Nations, FAO, that also agree that the demand would actually go up. If you also look at in Africa, currently there are more people in urban areas, and there is also an increase in population. So basically, when there are more people and there is also an increased demand, then that would automatically just drive the sector, because there is what is needed and there is now a gap that has been identified. So anybody who is keen would actually invest in the sector. So there are also other factors that drive the sector. When you look at inputs, issues of input supply, especially the feed, and that is a major driver of the sector. It can either drive the sector positively or negatively. If there is not sufficient feed, then you agree with me that the livestock would not do well, because when they don't feed well, then they would not have good, proper health. And when the nutrition is actually not right, even their health would also be compromised. So when you come to the question that you've asked of what are some of the advancements, especially in the veterinary side, then you'd look at issues that, of course, now tend to improve the nutrition and the health. The first thing is vaccination. There is a lot of research and development in the vaccine industry. Initially, what used to happen in the sector was that there used to be just a single vaccine. But when you look at it currently, the vaccines are a combination that would aim to address so many things at a go. If you look at the vaccines, there are also studies that are ongoing, and there are also, if you look at foot and mouth disease, at the moment we have the quadrivalent strain that is able to handle more than one strains together, rather than having a vaccine that are more stable vaccines that can even stay longer without really having to be refrigerated. So that is also an advancement that would also ensure that even the areas in ASALs, the arid and semi-arid lands, also get to benefit from vaccinations, even with the very high temperatures. The other advancement that has gone on in the veterinary sector is the diagnostic capacity. Initially, for you to make a diagnosis, then it had to be a long process of taking the sample to the laboratory, having it processed, taking even days for you to get the results. But at the moment, we have the rapid tests. We even have the strips that you use in the field to just be able to make a diagnosis and start the treatment, even though you still go on with the very detailed diagnostic methods. So basically, with the vaccines, that is improving animal health. Of course, with the diagnostics, would also reduce the time that which takes to be able to diagnose a disease, and that would aid in prompt treatment so that the animal health is improved. Thank you so much.
Dr. Anyango stressed on the need for vaccinations, and we have vaccinations now which are more stable, which wouldn't need refrigeration as much in high temperatures. So coming to Mr. Divya Kumar Gulati, what role do public and private partnerships play in strengthening the livestock sector? We'd love to hear your perspective drawing from India's experience. And Dr. Gulati.
Okay, great. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to the esteemed people here on the webinar. Let me first explain what CLFMA is so that you'll get a perspective when I speak about public-private partnership. CLFMA originally started as a Compound Livestock Feed Manufacturers Association in 1967. So we're more than 50 years old association in India, but 15, 20 years back, we encompassed the other parts of the livestock industry also, like the feed supplements, the equipment manufacturers, the integrators, the cooperatives. So these are all part of the association now. Now, coming to the public-private partnership, I think that is extremely important. It plays a very critical role in development of the livestock sector. The government, whichever government, has to actually understand what the business is all about, what livestock industry is all about. And there's no other better people than the private industry players and the farmers who can actually explain to the government as to what they do, how they do, and what their pain points are. So the important role which the government can play, for example, is, the government has a lot of veterinary institutes, veterinary research centers. There could be a joint research and development, which is a very important role, the public-private partnership, where research and development is where all it begins. Be it animal breeding, be it disease control, be it nutrition, be it sustainable farming practices. So the private companies actually can get the cutting-edge technologies and commercial expertise. And the public institutions can do the scientific research, and they can actually drive the innovation together. Then, as the nation is developing, Africa is developing, we have access to a lot of advanced technologies. Right? Now, whether it is genomics, whether it's precision farming, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's digital agriculture, whether it's digital mapping of the agriculture produce, these are also very important part in, developing the industry. Another part is improving the infrastructure and resources. Now, the private players can actually invest in infrastructure, and the government can play a huge role in actually providing whether the land area or tax breaks or favorable regulations, and the private companies can contribute in capital and expertise. So this is how the government can actually participate. And this is a very important part in developing the markets together. Another important part is enhancing market access. Okay. Now, the domestic players have access to international markets. They can actually invite the government officials and can go together and understand what the world is doing and incorporate whatever is there being followed in the international markets to suit their own country. And this plays also a very important part. Now, another thing, the most important thing is policy. Without policy, the industry can never prosper. And to make policies, the government and business, the private businesses have to be in partnership. So this is exactly what we do in India. To give an example, in India, we are trying to make the feed regulations, right? Now, the government wants to monitor food and feed. Now, for making the feed regulations, the industry plays a very important role in setting the standards, the feed standards. And for setting up feed standards, you set up standards of the feed ingredients. Now, whether it is corn, whether it is soya, whether it is alternative ingredients like insect meal, DDGS, DORB, there are so many ingredients which go into actually manufacturing the feed. And then the major important part also, which is only 5% of the total inclusion of the feed, is the supplements. So you make the standards of the supplements also. And this is a very important role which both the private and the government can play in terms of understanding what the business is all about and develop the policies accordingly. And the other part is also to provide education. Now, it's very difficult to get people joining our industry because we are completely down the line in terms of the preference for the people joining this industry. So the major role would be what we do, for example, in CLFMA. All the top industrialists and top people of the organization go and give lectures in the educational institution, veterinary institutions, and they actually make them understand what the business is all about. And also, the industry conducts a lot of trials to these veterinary institutes. So this is the academia-industry partnership, where academia mostly is owned by the government, the veterinary institutes. That's how it works in India. I am not aware about Africa. So the education plays also a very important part. The other part is financing. Sorry?
Mr. Gulati, can I come to you again later on, because I think we are running out of time. So we have only 30 minutes. So is Mr. Abdul Qadir ready? We'll move on to the second round of questions. Yeah. So Mr. Joseph, Kagoro, Ruhinda, what are the economic and health benefits of adopting sustainable solutions in livestock management? I think you also had something to add on to what Dr. Anyango was saying. Dr. Ruhinda, Mr. Ruhinda.
Yes. If I start with my colleague's submission, reference submission, on that some of the advancements in animal nutrition and health. Of course, we talked about feed quality, which is key for increased weight gain, higher milk yields, higher yields of eggs, egg production. But also, I wanted to add the improved reproductive performance in livestock. That is very key. And we have also now currently in many places and some other sub-Saharan countries where we are able to do monitoring of animal health using sensors and other technologies, which are probably putting the animals in form of chips that will help monitor animal health and help farmers to intervene quickly to prevent disease spread. We also have environmental monitors, which are also sensor in the same way. And they are key in helping farmers to determine the rearing conditions to ensure that they are suitable for the animal welfare More so, we have forage preservation in form of silage and hay, which helps in pre-digestion of the feed, and the energy used by the animal to actually digest that feed is less, hence greater output from the feed per unit capital. And that is the surplus can improve animal welfare and productivity. Excuse me. That goes along also with balanced rations, which we can use now leverage technology to develop balanced rations based on the individual animal's productive stage, age, and also even sex and purpose. And that is very key because it helps to optimize rumen function, increase feed intake, and also feed conversion efficiency. Some of the others, maybe that I wouldn't want to mention here, we all know that there are some now probiotics that help improve animal nutrition and feed resources, but also the use of nanotechnology, which helps also to improve livestock nutrition and feed resources. Now, from that, I want to go straight to the economic benefits and health benefits. The first is obvious, increase the productivity. As we mentioned earlier, that you have higher livestock productivity where you have the technologies in place. When you adopt sustainable production, then you automatically have improved animal health. It helps you to reduce feed costs, while at the same time helps you to reduce disease loss due to reduced incidence of disease and their impact, parasitic infestation, and insect burdens. So that's very key in preserving animal health. Coming back to marketing, adopting sustainable productivity, you have access to premium markets that you otherwise never had access to. I'll take an example of foot and mouth disease in livestock. For instance, most sub-Saharan African countries, including Uganda, cannot export beef to the European Union. And the reason is one, that we don't have sustainable disease control, especially foot and mouth disease. So once that is put in place, then we have a better market for the product that we have, and that automatically increases productivity. On the side of the environment, it helps to reduce the methane, the greenhouse gas emissions, because, for instance, like mob grazing or rotational grazing and improved manure management are key in reducing emissions. There is the issue of efficiency, enhanced efficiency, where you have selective breeding and better animal nutrition to reduce the number of animals needed to produce the same amount of meat or milk. And the sustainable farming practices can also improve soil health and carbon sequestration, and hence leading to a greater environmental impact of food production by reducing the use of synthetic pesticides and chemical fertilizers and other harmful effects. Overall, Mr. Surender, sustainable livestock management is key for rural communities because it enhances their livelihoods and promotes sustainable farming practices, strengthens the local economy, and also provides a source of income and employment, which are key for the coexistence of the livestock farming ecosystems. Thank you.
Good health of livestock is key for enhancing livelihood of people as well. You mentioned about the foot and mouth disease, and Dr. Anyango also mentioned about the foot and mouth disease. Dr. Anyango, what other key livestock diseases in Africa and what strategies are most effective for their control? Dr. Anyango.
Okay, so thank you. you realize that livestock diseases are actually a major hindrance to animal health. So the animal diseases have to be kept at bay for the production to be up there. So in Africa, different diseases, of course, are present, of course, depending on the different regions. Some are more common in the south, some are more common in the eastern, but of course we have the trade-sensitive diseases, the transboundary, that are present in more than one country and can actually cause several or severe economic losses. So foot and mouth disease, of course, is very important. It is a viral disease that causes economic losses, and it's also trade sensitive, such that if your animals have foot and mouth disease, probably you cannot export them to other countries. And there are also the other diseases such as lumpy skin disease. There is the contagious caprine pleuropneumonia. And then there in the small stock, the sheep and goats, we have the PPR. It's called pestes, cause PPR. And then there is the contagious caprine pleuropneumonia. So what is common in all these diseases is that they are viral diseases. And for viral diseases, usually we say there is no treatment. So you need to actually prevent them before they occur. So how do you prevent them? The most effective way of preventing these diseases is by vaccination. And vaccination in this case is observing the routine. There is an annual schedule of vaccination. For example, in foot and mouth disease, we have the vaccination should be done twice a year, 6 months apart. So when you vaccinate, probably in January, you vaccinate again in July. And that should be done every year for you now to be sure that your animals are protected. It also goes for the same for the other diseases that I've mentioned. And besides vaccination, there is also what you need to do, what you call surveillance. You need to upgrade or rather intensify surveillance. Surveillance is basically just searching around or just continuously testing your herd to ensure they're free from the disease. And if you realize that there are any sick animals, then you treat them promptly before the disease spreads to the rest of the herd. So when you combine vaccination with continuous surveillance, then you are sure that whatever it is, that you are able to identify them in good time and you're able to handle any sick case. Biosecurity measures would prevent entry of the pathogenic microorganism. It could be a virus, it could be a bacteria. So what we advise farmers to do is that they first clean up, of course, their surrounding and where the animals live. They also need to keep disinfecting. And they can also do what is called quarantine. If they bring any sick animal or if they do any new introduction, they need to separate them, isolate them from the main herd for some time, monitor them. And if they don't have any diseases, then that is when they can join the rest of the herd. And if they notice that there is any sick animal amongst the herd that is showing any signs of disease, then they can also separate them. They can have a separate room which they could use for quarantine or isolation until the animal improves, so that every time they have measures that minimize entry of the pathogenic organisms, or if the pathogenic organisms are already in the herd, then they devise a way of minimizing them so that they don't spread. There are some chemicals that you can use to clean that of course will kill the microorganisms, or the microorganisms cannot survive in such surrounding. So, and you keep cleaning, you keep disinfecting, and when you constantly do that, and definitely you couple it with the proper nutrition and feeding for the right purpose, such that you give the right regime. If you're keeping an animal for milk, then feed it for high milk production. If you're keeping an animal for beef, then tailor-make the feed regime so that it helps the animal to build muscles. If you're feeding it for reproductive management or for increased fertility, then tailor-make your feed so that you balance the nutrients to target whatever your output is, such that the animals are doing well, they're in good health, they are feeding properly, and generally you will produce well, or your productivity and production would go up. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anyango. If I had to summarize in 2 points, it would be uh, continuous vaccination and not missing the vaccination schedule, along with intensified surveillance, which has to be complemented with biosecurity measures. So thank you, Dr. Anyango. I'll come to Mr. Divya Kumar Gulati once again. Mr. Gulati, how can advancements in health and nutrition contribute further to livestock productivity, particularly in resource-constrained settings? Mr. Gulati.
There are 3 or 4 factors which are very important in terms of nutrition. It's first is the improved animal nutrition. That is very important. Then the health and disease management. The genetic selection and breeding is also very important, and animal welfare and stress reduction. Now, touching upon the improved animal nutrition is obviously balanced diets. Precision feeding is just what Dr. Anyango said. The precision feeding, depending on the animals you have, you design the feed accordingly, whether it's for beef or milk or whatever. For the places where the resources are less, you find alternate feed ingredients. For example, insect meal, algae, or any byproduct from the agriculture which has protein source, because they are high protein diets. And then the feed additives and supplements. So it could be probiotics, it could be prebiotics, enzymes. Most importantly, now people are introducing a lot of phytochemicals, essential oils. That's the natural way of going, and it's a good way of providing prevention for a long period of time. Health and disease management, I think we've already touched upon that subject, whether it's vaccination and disease prevention, and whether it's antimicrobial alternatives or parasite control. So health and disease management also play a very important role in terms of increasing the productivity. Selection and breeding, this is where the government and private partnership can do in terms of doing joint programs in selection and breeding, whether it's advances in genomics or disease resistance, or improving the feed conversion ratio, or the fertility, or livestock productivity. So you can select the breed accordingly. You can also select the breed according to the disease resistance. That plays a very important role in improving the productivity. And then is the animal welfare and stress reduction, where there are various ways of doing stress management. For example, in poultry, you can use environmentally controlled sheds wherever there is affordability. That improves the productivity. As soon as the stress goes down, the productivity improves. Whether it's enriched environments, better quality, more space. These are, I think, most important points, and some of them have already esteemed speakers have already touched on the subject of the productivity and nutrition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gulati. If I had to summarize this in one sentence, our webinar, the key word I think here is technology, whether be genomics or whether be like upcoming technologies like artificial intelligence and surveillance of diseases, and environmental control sheds, as Mr. Gulati said. So technology is the key, and with through public-private partnership, we can go ahead. I think we'll have more to learn from the upcoming Future Food, Livestock and Poultry Expo Flip 2025 in Nairobi, Kenya. And thank you so very much, everyone, to all the speakers for their insightful contributions. Thank you.